I know, and I have been in many environments where you just don't feel safe, where there's that lack of psychological safety. One of the organisations I worked in many years ago, very psychologically unsafe environment, and I remember that our CEO would say, I don't really care about sorting this out right now, I just need to know who's to blame. And when you're all kind of trying to avoid this blame, it's like, what, you know, who's coming for me? I'm going to be in trouble. You're under that pressure. You're feeling that, you know, that tiger, that saber-toothed tiger coming at you, and you'll do anything to be able to avoid that. You're less likely to be innovative, you're less likely to be collaborative. NASA used to be a very unpsychologically safe company to work in, very hierarchical, and they were launching a rocket, and it was the first civilian being launched into space. I think she was a school teacher, and some of the more junior engineers had noticed that there were issues, and they kept trying to raise them, and the more senior people were being like, no, you know, how dare you, you're junior here, this isn't, you know, this isn't the way we do things. They started to realise that the more that they were kicking up a fuss, the more they were kind of there was black marks against them. It was making them suffer in terms of their roles. So they stopped saying anything. And then when the rocket actually went to take off, it exploded. And the things that the junior people had been raising were completely accurate, but because of the culture and the lack of safety, none of that stuff was listened to, which then had such a massive impact because people weren't able to challenge the status quo. And then we also need to have talked about embracing diverse perspectives. We are better, and Apple's catchphrase is, we are all different, and that's our greatest strength. Because it's like, how do you tap into all of these different resources you have? Instead of creating a culture and environment that only celebrates, listens to, and rewards the loudest, often it is the people who are active thinkers, can think on the spot, speak up in meetings, are good at networking, are good at kind of being visible. But there are so many people, introverts, reflectors, people with neurodivergence that actually need more time to be able to reflect, who need more time to be able to perhaps feedback through email. So giving people different ways to be able to capture people's thoughts is so important, and that creates inclusion, it creates safety, but it also gives you that competitive advantage because you are leveraging the skills of people that aren't always normally heard in classic meeting culture, classic communication culture.
We need lots of acute stress. And the reason why it's acute stress is that we know that we'll get over it. We know that we have the ability to pass through it and get out the other side. Acute stress is lots of adrenaline, butterflies, that kind of thing, all fine. Chronic stress is lots of cortisol and noradrenaline and other things. That's not good. It changes your entire body. Everything changes in that person when they're in chronic stress. Because our brains, when we're in chronic stress, are trying to get energy in. So we're vigilant. You don't want to be asleep when a hunter-gatherer and you're about to be killed by some bear. So when you're under chronic stress, you have less sleep, which is normal. You become inactive. There's a hormone that actually stops you being active when you're stressed. It's called ghrelin, and it's there to save energy. You don't want to be burning off excess energy when you're under stress. You've got to conserve every single calorie. Poor diet. Well, it's not really a poor diet. It's a diet to get as many calories in as possible. Fat and sugar, that's what we crave when we're chronically stressed. Why? Because you want those calories in, and we store it in our middle, so we get fatter down here. It's all normal. It's all protection. It's all completely the body doing exactly what it's designed to do. But we keep on saying, but I'm just rubbish at doing my gym, I keep on stopping. When you're chronically stressed, you're fighting against every single part of your body that's trying to protect you.
I started with what well-being is not, because I think that's important, because people assume it's really simple, it's really easy. It's not at all. So it's not, I'm not saying that everybody needs to down tools at 5 p.m. every day and leave, even when there's a pile of carbon fibre that needs to become a car in 2 days' time. That is not what well-being is. It's not just benefits. It's not a fluffy HR topic. If you start there, then people might start thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to be told that well-being is this easy thing we need to focus on. Then you can start to move towards what it actually is. You might not even call it well-being. We haven't quite decided on that. Well-being can be off-putting to people who don't believe in it. You might call it sustainable high performance, you might call it human fitness. Whatever it is, I think it needs to be really bespoke to the industry and team that you're in, so that you're speaking the language of your leaders, your managers. And once you've identified that narrative, you can start to weave together all the things that you want to do.